Our guest today is Matt Cubbler, sought-after motivational inspirational speaker who has lived a life of service as a U.S. Army soldier, police officer, and entrepreneur. Today he shares the secrets for effective leadership. Find out more about Matt and his work at mattcubbler, that is CUBBLER.com. Hi, Matt. Welcome back to Savvy Business Radio. It's a pleasure to have you back. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me back again. It was a joy the last time. I'm sure it'll be the same this time.
You betcha. And you're doing amazing work out there. You've been in law enforcement, and I was really impressed with the work you did to help children out there build confidence in themselves. And now you're going out there to the greater speaking circuit and bringing your talents in leadership and helping people build their leadership skills. And we're going to go into all of that. But before we head into all of that, give the audience a little brief background on where you came from and how you came into working in the speaking circuit.
I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm 46 years old. After high school, I went in the military. I was in Army intelligence. Then I became a cop, and I've been a cop for 24 years, still a cop to this day. And throughout my law enforcement career, I've been everything from narcotics to uniform to SWAT. I did a 4.5-year period when I was in the Federal Air Marshals after 9/11. And then I came back to police work, and I've been at this one department for the last 11 years. In 2009, I started my own company called Max Out, and it's a fitness-based business, and also equipment manufacturing business, and we talked about that the last time I was on. And through that business enterprise, I started working with teenagers a little bit more intimately as a trainer, and I realized that I could actually influence kids a little bit more specifically in leadership when I have that moment with them when we're training, and I can, after proving them that you can get them stronger and faster, then they start to confide in you for other things, and they kind of just build off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Matt, one thing I realized, so I'm wondering what your take has been a lot on some of the people's in the public's view of police. Have you had to deal with the backlash of some of the public's discourse of some of the things we hear in the news about police and stuff? I mean, how have you dealt with that? How has that worked out for you?
Listen, I get it. The cops are the same. There's not a difference in people, and there's not a difference in police officers since the beginning of time. It's just that it's now more in your face with social media. So people are, they like to live in bubbles, and I'm okay with that. I want them to live in their safe. I don't have to lock my doors. Everything's great in my community. I prefer them there because in the real world where I live, at least in my real world, it's a little bit different, and it's not necessarily for everybody. And so if people have an uneducated opinion about me, I'm okay with it. As a whole, I'm not trying to change people's minds. I'm just going to go out and be the best me I can be.
Yeah. Well, what we're hoping by this program is that people will begin to open up and realize that we're not all different, that, we are basically human. We all love, have families. We love each other. We want to do well, be healthy, and all of that. But you're helping people with building their leadership. What brought you into that niche and helping people get, more centered and understanding leadership and how they can incorporate that in their business and in their life?
It started for me in high school, actually. I was kind of a chucklehead. Very intelligent chucklehead, but I made some bad choices, and I grew up in an urban environment and did this stuff, hanging out in the streets that not every kid, but I did, and got myself some trouble. And there was a police officer who made a decision to help me, and he became my mentor. And he was a former Marine and ended up in the chief of police in the town that I grew up in, and he's been a mentor to me all my life. And it was through that experience that I realized that just because you make mistakes doesn't mean that you're done. And he stayed with me throughout my life, helped me get my first job as a cop, and I went in the military. A lot of reasons was because of him, and so there's a lot of influences in my early part of my life. And throughout my life, I worked for some great leaders, whether it was in the military or law enforcement, and I was put in leadership positions, and I excelled. And I realized that I had the ability to lead, and then also the ability to help others lead. And I was doing it as a police officer, mostly mentoring kids that needed help. And those kids all, for the most part, ended up becoming strong leaders and strong community citizens. And I felt that after I got into the situation with Max Out, and I was having a more direct influence on these kids in a different environment than I was with kids that were getting in trouble. These are kids that were trying to be better and getting trained and better in athletics. So they were already driven.
Yeah.
So I was able to get into their minds and help them, and then I created this program through Max Out, and it just sort of was born that way.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned about your boss really being that, and also later on, that mentor for you. Because for me, early on in my 20s, I had that mentor in corporate world who actually, what I found amazing, and that's the difference between just someone who manages and someone who leads, is that he would take everyone's best gifts and get them to bring it to the table on a daily basis and push you. Sometimes people didn't like him so much, he'd make you do things a little uncomfortable and go beyond your comfort zone. But at the end of the day, you're like, wow, he really pushed me to a point I didn't know I could go, and really made me appreciate his style. And later on, I'm able to give that to others as well. And I think that's what you're talking about a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. One of the tenets of my leadership program is figuring out what you're good at and what you're not good at, being honest with yourself, and helping them, not telling them what they're good at, but helping them discover what they're good at, especially when I'm dealing with youth. And the key to life, the key to success, at least in the world that I've lived in, is when you spend time doing things that you're passionate about and that you're good at, you're going to have a higher rate of success. And spending that time wisely. My brother passed when I was 18 years old, and he was learning disabled, had autism, and stuttered profusely, and he didn't have the benefits of the life that I've lived, and his was cut short at 21. So there's no tomorrow being promised. So I always say, if you have a talent and you have a passion, go with it. Don't try to and it's not that I disagree, but everybody likes to say, work harder at the things that you're not good at. And sometimes that makes sense in certain environments, but for the most part, I say if you're good at something, that's probably where you should be spending your time.
Yeah. And so one of my questions I was thinking, could anyone be a leader? Is it really a matter of first discovering what you're really, really good at and then making that where you're a leader? Or can you only be a leader in certain things? What have you found?
I've found that every person can lead. Not every person is a leader. To me, I've created this for my kids that I work with in the schools, the definition, because if you think about it, kids are always searching for knowledge. They're always wanting to know more. And leadership is kind of like taboo. Nobody goes into the schools and talks about leadership. It's this mythical thing, the president, a general, a police officer, a teacher. It's this title. But it's really not that. It's not that at all. And when I go talk to kids and I break it down for them, I'm like, leadership is simple. It's just simply helping someone else be successful. If you spend your time helping someone else find success, and you do it without wanting anything in return, you're a leader. So you can do that every day, and people do it every day, but they don't necessarily quantify themselves as leaders. But that's really all it is when you break it all down.
I had heard something that a leader is someone that gets someone to do something that you need them to do, but they want to do it. It's coming from a place of them wanting to do it instead of them doing it for you.
Right. Yeah. And it's the person that's leading that person to that moment of discovery is doing so without any level of wanting anything back. And it's the selflessness that really brings out true leadership. And I think that's the thing that when you become aware of that and you know that you can do that, that's what becomes the addictive component of leadership. Because you really want to do it more because you found out, you unlock Pandora's box and you know how you can get other people to follow and believe in what you're saying and find value in your words. Yeah. That's the key to leadership. And that's why I fall in love with it. That's why I started the public speaking stuff, because I realized that every time I'm having these talks or I go in front of corporate groups or civic groups or schools, that I'm having these moments with these kids where their eyes just open up and go, oh my God, I've never thought of that. And I like that. I really enjoy it and I want to do more of it.
Yeah, what I found when I talk to a lot of people is they feel like, well, that's someone special. That's not me. I'm just ordinary. I'm not, I think people seem to see leaders, whether they're presidents or owning a company, that you have to be something mythical up there in some plateau. And actually, the best leader I had, that boss I told you about, really was an average, I didn't see him as really, really all that different from me once I got to know him. And that's the cool thing I think that was unique about him is he made he made an effort to really get to deeply know and care about every person in his group. And actually, like, if there was a problem, he wanted to find a way and a solution that we could all be at our best at all times.
Yep. And that's it. I mean, obviously that guy was a leader.
Yeah.
Because that's the essence of it. And it's not bossing people around. It's not being in charge. It's not, those things may come with leadership, but that's not what leadership is. And I think, especially with kids, and I talk a lot about kids, but I really believe that if we start early and we teach these kids how to become leaders, that we have less victims later on, and that their ability to succeed and the ability to overcome troubles and obstacles that life throws at us becomes better. I just think the odds are increased. And I've talked to, in the last 5 years, I don't know, 30,000 kids. And none, I mean, I'd say less than 1% when I ask how many have had leadership development training, less than 1% raise their hand. But they've all had some sort of a bullying, anti-bullying talk.
Yeah.
But they don't offer solutions.
Yeah. That's what bothered me when I heard your solution on how you help kids through bullying. I loved it because I really not too pleased about the idea of seeing bullying or people being bullied as victims, because I was bullied in high school and
Same here.
yeah, and the last thing I want to see is, well, you're a little victim, and it's very hard then if you're growing up with the ideal that you're the victim, you poor you, that then you can feel strong enough and confident enough in yourself that you can go out and be a leader because you've been told you're the little victim. So what was awesome about your Max Out program, and then later on you helping children work through bullying, is that you're helping them find their greatest gifts and talents, so that people, because I think what you told me the first time around is why people get bullied sometimes is because they don't look confident, or they look like someone that can be.
It's like in the wild. I mean, it's no different than the cheetah chasing the slowest elk or the weakest elk. That's the one they're going to get. And it's not a matter of strength or power or anything like that. It's a matter of confidence. And in the human world, it's who's less confident who's considered the weakest, and they're the ones that are get preyed on by bullies. And it never fails that I get kids. I give out my email and Instagram and Facebook to all the kids, and I get messages from them, and I told them that's a resource that I want them to have. And I get thank yous, and they'll tell me a situation happened that they felt like more confident because of leadership skills that they've been working on since our class. So I mean, to me, that's solving problems for kids. And it may not be every kid. I may not hit 100%, but I can tell you if I hit 10 out of 100, I'm good. I'm happy with that, because that's 10 more than we're being touched before. So I don't have inflated ego when it comes to what I believe I can do. I just hope that at least one person can.
Yeah. So for you, has it been working with adults and kids, realizing that, has there been a couple of things in particular that stand out? One, maybe being confidence. Is there a couple of other things that stand out that really help you create leadership in your life besides?
That's a good question. I think the thing I try to impart on people the most is that you got to love something. Like, first of all, you got to live. You got to feel things. Like, and I tell this, I did a talk last night at a Rotary Club, and I honestly have never written down anything I've ever said. Like, I don't prepare anything. Go in there, I read the room, and I kind of figure out what this room may want to. I know the general gist of my message, but how I deliver that message, I pretty much wait until I get in the room. And so this is a Rotarian group, and the Rotary is a leadership-based, selfless service kind of organization. That's what they're built on. And so people that are there already have some leadership understanding. But last night I talked about my path and my journey, and how after my brother died, he was the older brother, but I was the older brother because emotionally he wasn't older than me. He suffered a lot and was bullied a lot and picked on a lot, and I got in a lot of fist fights. And I was his best friend, and he was my best friend, and it was really hard on me. And I was 18, and I just graduated high school, and a month later I went in the Army. And for 13 years, I didn't, look back on these things, but I didn't know I wasn't healing things. And I had met my wife when I got out of the Army, and I found, you look back after you write a book, and I wrote a book about my brother's life. And when you write that book, you can sort of take a look back at your life and assess things, and I did, and I realized after 13 years I was pretty much in cruise control of like vanilla bombs. So I wasn't feeling anything. I thought I was. I thought I was loving my wife properly and loving my daughter properly, and But the reality was I wasn't. And then when my son was born in 2002, I named him after my brother. And for whatever reason, and I don't question God, but God chose that moment for me to let go of my survivor's guilt and the anger I had towards him for taking my brother. And I went down to my basement and I cried and I wrote for 8 hours and I wrote 25,000 words, and those 25,000 words were the beginning of my book. And it was from that moment, and I swear on everything holy, that it was literally like the sun appeared and everything was clear. Like, I didn't know I wasn't seeing those things, but then all of a sudden everything became very clear. And it's because I let go of all the things that were clouding my ability to be successful and to be happy and to experience life and share life and love life and all those things that, you know, we think we want to do, but we get in our own way or situations or whatever get in our way. I let it go. And I shared that last night with them, and how from that moment in 2001 is when I started to really live the life that I was meant to live and experience the things that I was supposed to, and share the things that I have experienced so that others maybe can learn from. So that's what I've learned to be able to do, is to be vulnerable and share.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Think back to when you started your business. You had a dream. You had boundless passion. You wanted to create something different. There was a problem, and you were going to solve it. Being an independent retailer is rewarding, but challenging, and there's a lot more to it than you ever imagined. Well, Lightspeed is here to help. With 45,000 customers around the world, we've helped countless entrepreneurs nail the business side of retail so they can spend time doing what they're passionate about. Join us for a 6-week speaker series featuring a curated panel of experts that will answer some of retail's toughest questions and give you the edge you need to stay competitive. You have a passion, and we have a passion for technology inspired by you. Visit lightspeedhq.com/speaker-series to learn more.
Wow, that's intense. You know what this recalls for me, Matt, way back when I left corporate for the first time to start Savvy and doing my consulting business. I remember I was scared on the way to work that day, and I said, I don't think I can take this anymore. I was in a really detrimental, very not nice environment, and I just kept going there for the paycheck, thinking I need to do this because this is just, I've always been in the back of my mind, this is the only way I could live, through a job. I never dreamed that I could do something other than through a job. So I just couldn't take it one morning, and I was praying, and I said, God, I feel like if I quit, you won't have my back. And God said, when have I not had your back, no matter what you decide? And you know, I just couldn't take it anymore. So I just said, you know what? God has my back. I'm quitting today. And like you, I let go at that moment, and that letting go, it was scary and exhilarating all at the same time. But the interesting thing is, from that one moment of letting go and making the decision to say, whatever happens, happens, a whole bunch of wonderful things have come about, along with me building confidence through learning and growing and pushing past my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. I mean, not many people experience what we had. You know, I mean, a lot of people lived in that fear zone, worrying about what the expectations are of them. Or, you know, I have a wife and kids, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom, and I've always told her I will never fail you. And that is my promise. And I have to make sure I live up to that. So I have a lot of faith in me, because I know what I'm capable of. I know where my strengths and weaknesses are. I try to avoid all the things that I'm not good at, if possible. And I try to work on all the things I'm great at, and I try to share them with others, and I try to help others figure that out for themselves. And that's where I find my strength, and that's where I find my passion. And whether it's in my business, entrepreneurial stuff with Max Out and growing that business and trying to do something new and different there, or through my public speaking, where I get to share my life story and my brother's story, because it's an amazing story. And it's a story that not everybody. Let me stop. My mom was a retired English teacher, and she always said to me, and she was a poet, and I wrote a lot. I actually had a little side business in high school, running term papers for money. But, you know, that was my beginning of my entrepreneurial lifestyle. Made a lot of money in high school, writing C's, D's, and A's for other people. But my mom said to me that everybody has a story to tell, but not everybody can tell a story. And I've been given a gift to be able to tell a story. And God has allowed me to be vulnerable and open, and my brother's story is one that people can understand, because everybody has somebody that is maybe not exactly like my brother, but had someone in their life that was so important to them that they lost, or that suffered, or whatever, whether their grandfather, mother, father, whatever, and they can relate to that, and how I came through that. Maybe they're not there yet, and maybe I can help them get there, and that's part of the entire process of what I'm doing with my public speaking, is just sharing, so that others can maybe find some hope to it. And I think it relates in the corporate world, because I relate all my stuff through, the failures I've had in business and how I've overcome them, and being bankrupt, and trying to launch something that no one's ever seen or done before, and all those scary things that come with business. And then schools, I can go in and talk to schools that I went to school. I can relate to what they're going through in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And then the civic groups, they all are together because they have a unified belief in something, and I can help them collectively be better. And that's really what I'm trying to accomplish every time I talk.
Yeah. And what I'm taking away from you that is also is another element of being a good leader, which we wouldn't think is true, but actually is vulnerability. And I didn't think of that until recently, when I read a great book, who I can't remember now, that talked about vulnerability in particular, and how important it is to actually grow as a person and a leader, to be able to let go and, of course, be vulnerable. And I think some of us, even myself, think of some of the great leaders, whether they be the president of your company or the country, or even the military leader. You think they have to be like a machine or something, Wonder Woman, Superman, but actually they're human, and they're vulnerable. They're able to show their vulnerability, but at the same time, their strength.
And I think there's moments in every leader where they have to be strong. I've had to be that in my, whether it's death of a family member, and everybody's leaning on me. I'm the cop who's been in more death scenes than I can ever imagine, and then I know how to handle that stuff, even though it's somebody I care about as well, and I have to be the one that is the strong one in the room, because I know that that's what's needed in me at that moment. And there's times when I need to be vulnerable with a kid that's suffering, and they need somebody that can just understand them and meet them in a level that they don't feel like they're being talked to, but talked with, and so you be more vulnerable then. So I think you have to be flexible as a leader, but I think authenticity comes with vulnerability. And if you are authentic, people can see that. They can see it in your eyes. They can sense it. They can feel it. And we've all been in front of an instructor or a teacher or someone who's giving a lecture on something, and you can sense when there's BS in the room, and sometimes and then you turn them off, and that person isn't authentic, and they're not reaching you, and they're not accomplishing whatever it is they were planning to accomplish that day. And I refuse to be not authentic. I want everybody may not get me, everybody will believe me. And that's important.
Because people can relate to that, and plus you'll pull out from them their authenticness and their best qualities. When they see that you're open enough to be real, it'll allow them to be real and come to the table.
That's the key. I mean, communication. Whether it's in business or sports or in your house. When I have a wife of 20 years, and if we didn't communicate, we'd fall apart, because I'm constantly on the move and coordinating and just making sure she's okay. That I'm come home stressed, and she knows I'm having a bad day. And I rarely have bad days, but when I do, she knows it, and then we talk. It's important that we communicate. And sharing in life is what it's all about. I always tell people, if you had billions of dollars and you were the most successful person on the planet, you lived alone on an island, would anybody care? They wouldn't, because nobody would know, because you didn't share it with them. And when you get past, everybody wants to be successful, and everybody wants to be financially safe. But when you get past the point of the reason why you're doing something is to achieve financial success, and you do it because it's your passion and you believe in it, I'm 100% convinced that life in and of itself will take care of the rest. Because it's when you do good things every day, and you do it with an open heart, and you do it because you want to inspire others, or help others, and motivate others, that at some point, you're not going to every single day have the greatest days, but at the end of it, when it's all said and done, you're going to have more success than you're not. I'm okay with whatever that looks like.
Well, it's interesting because I've written a book and I haven't published it. I'm still in the works. I don't know if it'll ever come out now because it's been a couple of years. But basically, it was my understanding of when I started this journey, what I thought success was, which for me happened to be making a lot of money, having a big place, these ideals of trappings of things or money that we are considered that we in our society consider that's when you've reached the pinnacle of success. That is one, I think, measuring stick for success, but there's many levels. I don't think you've ever, even if you have millions of dollars in the bank, that you're there as a human being. It's an ever ongoing evolution as a
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. And so that's what I've discovered, that it's not just like, bam, you're there. And it's a kind of ongoing journey.
I always tell the kids that I deal with that you should always be challenging yourself to do better, whatever that is. You know, and I always have. I show this one video, and it's an amazing video. If you haven't seen it, you should. It's called The Death Crawl, and it's from a movie, a football movie, a high school football movie. And there's a scene where the coach, they're talking about this football team they're playing. They're supposedly really good, and this one kid doesn't believe they're going to do well, and he calls the kid out, and he tells him he's going to do the death crawl, which is this walking on your hands and feet with someone on your back. Ooh. And it's a challenge of will and effort and belief. And the coach asks him how far he thinks he can go, and he says, of course, I can go to the 20-yard line. And the coach says, well, I think you can go to the 50. And he says, I don't believe. The kid says, I don't think I can, or I can if someone's not on my back. The coach says, well, whatever far you go, I want you to give your very best. And he says, but I'm going to make you wear this blindfold. And you know, I show this whole video, and the whole time the coach is screaming at the guy, and he's still crawling, he's still going, and when it's all done, he's in the end zone on the other end. He went 100 yards. And the coach is on the ground and takes the blindfold off and goes, look up there in the end zone. And he's like, you are the most influential leader on this team, and I can't have you not giving your very best, because others will follow you. Will you give me your very best? The kid says yes. And I teach this, I put this in my classes, especially for my middle school kids, is because I want them to understand what the very best is. Your very best is not always equate with like success. And I tell the story about I ran across New Jersey in 2008 to raise money for my brother's charities, and I raised $25,000. And prior to running 78.8 miles, I had run 20 miles in 1 week, and that was the most I'd ever run. And I went out and ran 3 marathons in 3 consecutive days, and broke 6 bones in my feet, had a muscular seizure on the side of the road at mile 40, but I didn't walk 1 step, and I finished when I was supposed to finish. And it was through that process of giving everything that I had emotionally. I mean, I cried. Literally, the last day I cried for 17 months, and I couldn't stop crying. It wasn't like I was sad, or I just was emotionally just spent, and I was just releasing emotion. And I got to the end, and I couldn't finish my speech, and my wife had to do the speech. And someone did a video of it on YouTube, and up until that point, I was 30. What was that? Almost 10 years ago, 35 years old. I thought I'd given my very best 50 times. But then I gave my very best that one time, and now I know what that is. And I know what I'm searching for now. Every time I go out and put effort, that's when that moment that I went through when I ran across New Jersey was my very best. And I tell these kids all the time that at that moment with the football player in that video, he thought he had given his very best. And we negotiate with ourselves how far we're willing to go. And usually fear is the reason why we stop. We say, I can go this far, that's enough. And that was good enough, and I did well. So therefore, that was my very best. When in fact, there's probably layers and layers and layers upon layers of depth you can go to that you have yet to access because you're afraid. And that blindfold was very significant in the video, because the kid would have stopped at the 30-yard line, because right in the beginning, he negotiated with himself and said, I can go to the 30. And the 30 probably would have been pretty good. But he went a full length of a football field. And that's what I try to tell these kids. And I always ask them before I show the video, raise your hand, how many people have given you your very best one time in your life. And if I have 50 kids in class, they all raise their hand. And then I say, remember what, you raise your hand. And then I show them that video, and I say, now after watching this, how many people has done your very best? And maybe 3.
Whoa.
And that's important to know what you're willing to do and how far you're willing to go to accomplish something. Wow. And knowing what that feels like. And that is the ultimate search in life. It's how good is my very best? And my very best, I was running 11-minute miles. I wasn't killing it. I wasn't running out there doing 4.5 minutes like some Ethiopian running. So my very best wasn't necessarily a good time. My very best was everything that I had in my body, mind, body, and spirit. And I had nothing left to give at that moment. And that's when I knew I gave my very best. So when I deal with a lot of athletes, and they will say, I gave my very best, but it wasn't good enough because the clock or or the score didn't say so. And I'm like, well, sometimes those two things are different. And when you're at your very best, you're trained to your very best, you're peaking at your very best, you eat your very best, you sleep your very best, and then you give your very best. Then the clock at a scoreboard is probably going to show your very best time. But your very best in the beginning of the season may not result in what you think is your very best based on a score or a time. But you have to know what that feels like, so that when you are feeling your best and you trained your best and all those things would come together and everything, that perfect storm, and you give your very best, it's incredible. It's like Michael Phelps in the Olympics, or Katie Ledecky. She knows how to give her very best every single time. Her very best is a feeling, not a score, not a time. And that's what I'm trying to help kids understand, especially in sports, because it's in high school, kids are fragile to begin with, and when you tell them they did poorly in an event, it crushes them. But you have to give them context to understand on their level of control, what can I control, and what does that feel like? And teaching them to go there is part of what we try to do.
Wow, this is fascinating to me. I recently heard on TV that this Navy SEAL, this is funny, he was doing a run, I think a marathon, and there was this other guy who was a billionaire doing a run as well, the marathon. And he said this guy just showed up at the marathon with a chair and a granola bar and some water. He showed up with a masseuse, a tent, some food, and this guy kicked butt. He said, what am I doing wrong? So he asked that guy to come live with him for 30 days. And
I saw that same video.
Yeah, and I was just like, and he was saying basically that people think they're giving their very best, but they only, at the point they think to give up is when they've only given 40%.
Yep.
And I'm like, 40%? Really?
That's 100% true. That guy was spot on that video.
Wow. And go. I just
think that feeling that when you can get somebody to believe you, and I think that's where my power of influence and leadership can help, especially when I'm in a one-on-one situation or in small groups, is that when I can show them what that looked like. And I say, I broke 6 bones in my feet and still ran. I laid on the side of the road seizing, the water being sprayed on me in the middle of a rainstorm, running on a highway, and got up and ran because I knew that I needed to be at this place at this time, and I didn't have an option. I didn't have a plan B, and I needed to do that, and I needed to do it because my brother would have never quit. And I wanted to prove to myself that whatever struggle my brother went through in life, I was willing to go through a physical something similar physically, knowing that I knew when I decided to run across New Jersey, I knew it was going to hurt. Like when you only run 6 miles at one point in time, you go out and run 78, you know it's not going to be pretty. So I wanted that, though. I wanted to feel some level of, it's almost like flogging, I guess, or something weird, that I needed to feel this anguish. I needed to know what that felt like. And I did. And it was amazing. It was excruciating, don't get me wrong, but it was amazing to finally know what my very best felt like. And to know that I didn't have anything, no more anger, no more guilt. And from 2002 to 2008 was a growth period for me. It wasn't like all of a sudden I was no longer was perfect and life was gravy after I started writing the book that night. But in 2008, when I ran across New Jersey, I had nothing left to be angry about. I had nothing left to be sad about. I had nothing left to be guilty about. And it was an amazing feeling to know that everything that I had to give, I gave, and that whatever was left inside of me that was hurting me or keeping me from growing was now gone. Was the most amazing feeling of all.
Wow. This is amazing to me. And this recalls for me, he's one of my favorite business coaches. And he said when he was first getting started, he didn't believe he could reach a certain point financially in his business. It's just, I can't do it. It's just not possible. And his coach and mentor said to him, well, you know what? You don't have to believe it right now, but can you believe that I believe you can do it? And that kind of reminds me of that coach who said, you know what, just put the blindfold on. I'm going to get you to there because I believe you can do it, even if you can't believe it yet.
Well, I think a good ending to this is I at this talk last night, was in the town where I'm a police officer, and in the crowd was a family that I'd been to their house a couple years back, and the wife had come down with some rare neurological muscular disorder and was basically unable to walk, couldn't move her legs, nothing. And the husband was frantic, and he called me up. We called the police. I arrived, and he said, she's supposed to go to the doctor, but I just can't get her there. And I said, well, if you go out and get your car and open the side door and put that seat back, I'll carry her down from the second floor of your 2-story house out to your car. And there's probably 50 yards. I had to carry her, and she wasn't, she's a 6 foot tall woman. And luckily I own a gym. And I looked at her and I said to her, look in my eyes and trust me. I won't cry. And she just kept looking in my eyes, and I carried her all the way up to the car. But in the audience was this family and the woman. And I didn't know they were going to be there. And after my talk, he said, I never got a chance to thank you for what you did that day, because had it not been for you telling me to take her to the doctor that day, we would have never found out the disease that she had, that only 400 people in the country have. And the doctors that were on staff, that they were only on staff that day. And they are the ones that diagnosed it, and she wouldn't have got better. And she got up, the wife got up and gave me a hug, and she whispered in my ear, and she goes, the thing that I knew you were the right person, and that you were not going to, that everything was going to be okay when you told me to look into my eyes and say, I trust you. And she goes, and to me, that's that authenticity. And that was in a moment of pressure where I wasn't, I'm not trying to lead. I was just trying to help this woman out, but I needed her to believe in me. And I needed her to be okay, because if you ever try to carry somebody that doesn't want to be carried, they flail their arms around, they get stiff. It's not a pretty sight when you're trying to carry somebody. But I needed her to be very calm so I could do it. And for me, that was that. It's just another layer of validation that if you believe in something strongly enough, and that you can get someone else to believe in it too, that great things can happen.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, now I don't want us to leave here without you letting everyone know where they can hire you to speak or work with you one-on-one. Let them know that.
My website's under construction, so that's not done yet. But you can go to my business website for Max Out, which is maxoutcorp.com, maxoutcort.com. You can email me directly at matt@maxoutcorp.com, or you can call my cell at 610-960-1187. I answer everything.
Well, I want to thank you again, Matt, for sharing your awesome wisdom tonight. We went through some amazing topics that I'm hoping will inspire others to reach out there and be and live their very best. Or if not, if they feel they can't do it yet, give you a call so you can help them believe in it and reach it themselves. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming back to Savvy Business Radio.
Again, it was awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
After 5 years of creating exciting business content with amazing businesses from around the world, Savvy is now creating a new video series entitled Heartbeat of the World. This series will feature experts from around the globe. We will highlight and discuss some of the greatest challenges facing the U.S. and the world. Co-create with us and find out more at bit.ly/SavvyPatron.
Savvy Business Radio, and runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.